I like to read a lot of articles about psychology because I want to figure out my own mind and workings. And I do go to therapy. I use a type of therapy called internal family systems. It seems to be really effective for me, and it really helps me understand myself better. But one thing that I wanted to say before reading this article is, you hear a lot online that a lot of younger kids are claiming to have mental illness, but that it's actually a trend, a fad that people are copying or falling into or pretending, which mental health is very serious, and anyone can have mental health issues. Literally anyone. A rich person, a successful person, someone on the streets that seems happy just being poor. And most people who are homeless do actually have mental disorders, and that's part of the reason why they're homeless, which that's a whole nother issue in itself. But the thing that I wanted to say is for people to just be very honest with yourself when you're in therapy, and don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to other people about what you think is going on. None of us lay people are professionals, and it is up to professionals to make the calls for the pathology of our mental illness or what's going on with us. But that being said, also, we as individuals know how we feel in a way that no one else ever will. And it's important for us to try our best to be honest as possible with ourselves and not lie to ourselves. Otherwise, we're going to end up thinking we have something that we don't. It could affect our lives forever to, think you have some sort of mental illness or illness in general when you might not really. So as it's important to listen to and learn from psychologists and even do your own research, it's really important to try to be as self-aware as possible, which can be challenging because so often we lie to ourselves daily basis. Anyway, here is the article. The title being, Therapy Might Be Pathologizing Ordinary Experiences. Psychiatry is often accused of pathologizing. What about therapy? This article was found on Psychology Today. Psychiatry is often accused of pathologizing ordinary experiences, but therapy may contribute to this also. Therapies such as CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, may not distinguish between mental disorders such as depression and ordinary experiences such as grief. Seeing these experiences as pathological may change our cultural responses to them. Something I've actually had to do is correct my therapist when I knew that what I was experiencing was normal depression or grief, when she actually thought that it might be something connected to childhood experiences, childhood trauma. And I had to tell her, I don't think that it is. I think it's just something that's, a now issue. Anyway, in the wake of prolonged grief disorder entering the Diagnostic Statistic Manual of Disorders, debates over pathologizing, classifying as disorders requiring specialized treatment what we might think of as typical life experiences like grief, have reignited. Psychiatry has long featured in these debates, most obviously in the case of homosexuality, which was classified as a mental disorder in the 1970s. There has been considerably less attention devoted to psychiatry's close cousin, psychotherapy. There's good reason to suspect that therapy might also contribute to pathologization. After all, many schools of therapy began as a treatment for specific disorders, but have since then extended their reach to more ordinary problems. For example, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, was originally developed as a treatment for severe depression, but is now widely available and applied to everything from dieting to productivity. As the target of therapy has shifted from clear-cut cases of mental illness to more ordinary problems, we might wonder whether our understanding of these ordinary problems has also shifted. I believe it has. It does in every generation. In a recent paper, the author shows that CBT's understanding of mental illness, the cognitive model of mental illness, contributes to the pathologization of experiences like grief, heartbreak, and misfortune. Cognitive behavioral theory argues that mental illnesses are related to certain patterns of thoughts referred to as negative automatic thoughts or cognitive distortions. Such an important thing to research and understand about oneself are your negative automatic thoughts. These distorted thoughts are hypothesized to give rise to negative emotions and behavior symptomatic of mental illnesses, such as depression. Many of cognitive behavioral therapy's therapeutic techniques focus on addressing these distorted thoughts with the aim of addressing the negative behavior and emotions. Unfortunately, typical experiences such as grief, heartbreak, and misfortune also involve the same patterns of distorted thoughts. It is not unusual, for instance, to find oneself thinking overly dramatic thoughts such as, "I will never love anyone like that again," in the wake of a breakup. Most likely, such a thought will turn out to be false or catastrophizing, as CBT texts tend to put it, but it is surely not disordered. We find it perfectly normal that people think such things when they are upset at the breakdown of a relationship. We also find the accompanying negative emotions and unproductive behavior, for example, obsessively checking their ex's social media, to be fairly typical of a breakup. Other negative experiences are similar. For example, in light of a bereavement, we may chastise ourselves by thinking that we should have spent more time with the loved one prior to their death. Or some sort of misfortune, for example, missing out on a long-desired career goal might result in bitterly wondering whether the decision-making procedure was entirely fair. These thoughts correspond to the cognitive distortions of the shoulds and blaming, respectively. However, such thoughts and the negative behavior and emotions that may accompany them are part and parcel of what it means to undergo these experiences. When a pathological experience is valuable, we might wonder whether it matters that ordinary experiences fall under CBT's cognitive model of mental illness. After all, they are distressing, and some people might prefer to work through them with the benefit of a therapist. However, this shift towards seeing ordinary experiences on par with more obvious mental disorders is likely to have unintended cultural consequences. Perhaps we are less patient with ourselves and others as we undergo these experiences. We may expect people to get over a loss quickly and return to their daily routines more immediately. Seeing these experiences as pathological is also a failure to see them for what they are, not just a typical or inevitable part of life, but also valuable. Both grief and heartbreak indicate that one has lost a significant relationship or a treasured person. Misfortune similarly indicates that one had something worth losing or aspired towards something that one values, such as an ambitious career. These experiences indicate that one has had a life worth living. No doubt, all therapies pathologize, but CBT's blurring of the line between mental disorder and ordinary experiences in its classification of mental illness shows that we must examine psychotherapy as well as psychiatry when worrying about pathologizing a range of human experiences. Thanks for listening, guys. If you are interested in hearing more about psychology, mental illness, and some of these other topics that I've been sharing, like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.